If you really want to become good at painting florals, take a walk in your garden. Take a closer look at the leaves and the flowers. And if the blooming daisies in the backdrop of lush green leaves capture your heart such that you feel that you must show them to the world, if the bright lilies and its enchanting buds call you to capture its every shade, and if you see endless beauty in the erratic rose leaves, then go ahead and believe that you're ready to paint them. So I'm itching again on this Saturday morning to paint an ensemble of such beauties in my latest Impressionistic style. For this, I'm using my top favorite choice of watercolor paper, the Arches Hot Press, and colors from Holbein and Daniel Smith. If you're painting along, see complete list of supplies in the description. And if you're here to just watch, which I think is half the learning, then I hope my deep love for florals come through in this painting. So for this experimental piece, let's take a look at the colors we used. And I would bin this painting in one of my playlists. It's called Painting Without Fear. And the reason is that I changed my technique here, or you can say I experimented with a different technique. I usually don't paint like this, but hey, what's life without experimentation? I do get bored easily, and I think it's very easy. It's a very good thing if you keep doing the same thing and you get bored, because that just explains that you have a experimental spirit, and experimentation is everything. Now there are artists who have made their career around just one thing, and they want to reach for perfection, and that's a great thing too. However, you know, just listen to your inner self. If you are that you know, experimental being, then, you know, just go for that. And if you want to go for perfection, then you just stick with that one technique that you like and you admire, and then reach perfection there. Both are a good way to you know, both are a very good path for an artist. So let's take a look at the colors we used. So the first color was the Crimson Lake, and I used a lot of colors in this painting. And another experiment that I wanted to do was I wanted to see if by putting that much variety, you know, I don't put this much variety in such a small piece, whether that makes a difference. And you know, actually I am leaning towards that. If you include a lot of pigments, different pigments, it kind of gives a different character to the painting. I don't know if you agree. Do let me know. So you will see quite a few number of pigments here, and I use the word not color, the pigments, because it's the variety in the pigments that gives the richness to the painting. The challenge there is also to balance all these pigments, and that takes some understanding, and that's a learning of its own. So the first color is the Crimson Lake, and that was just the center of these flowers, you know, these darker center of these flowers. And also when I mixed the ultramarine blue and sepia with the red to get these darker leaves, that's where it was used. And the second red was Opera Rose, very similar to Bright Rose, but slightly different. You know, I can feel in the Opera Rose, I can feel the dye a bit more. You know, you see this brightness, and actually that kind of, this color kind of brings out that, you know, luminous quality of certain flowers and petals that you see amidst a lot of green, and that's what I was aiming for. So, and I think Opera Rose does the job very well. It's a tad bit more, I would say, neonish compared to Bright Rose. Personally, I like Bright Rose better, but if you're using a lot of dark pigments like the ultramarine blue, then you may have Bright Rose go a little bit in the background. It cannot compete in the luminosity or the brightness. And then, you know, ultramarine blue is a very bright color, and I felt I should probably include Opera Rose for that reason, and I think that was the right choice. The yellow was quinacridone gold, and I may have included a cadmium yellow pale as well at certain points, but you know, I think you can skip that. You know, probably not worth mentioning. It's just because it was on my palette. At the tips of these long flowers, I may have used the pale, and the base of these flowers was sepia and the quinacridone gold. Most of it was quinacridone gold. So quinacridone gold. And then leaf green, another color that fit the palette. And although this is my usual color, but it especially fit the palette because, like I said, I wanted this painting to be extra bright and extra colorful, balanced in the right way. So hence the choice for leaf green color, lighter leaves. And I decided to use both of the dark greens. The first one was the undersea green, and the second one was the shadow green. And I'll give you a reason why I included both. If you see the center of these leaves, that was done in undersea green, and somehow I felt if I use shadow green, the leaves will not come out to be warmer, and I wanted the leaves to be overall warm because the base was quinacridone gold, mixed in a tad bit of, I wouldn't say sepia, it was a little bit of leaf green in there. And the shadow green was mostly this part of the flower, so I wanted these leaves to look very different from these leaves, and hence the two different dark greens. For the planter, it was the ultramarine blue deep, and Holbein has two ultramarine blues, and well, each manufacturer have, some of them just have ultramarine blue, and then Holbein for some reason has an ultramarine blue light and ultramarine blue deep, and I think it was the right choice. Like I said, this painting, I wanted it to be bright and colorful, and the deeper blue actually was, I was thrilled that I didn't go towards the ultramarine blue light. I wanted this to be just like this. And last but not the least was the sepia, very favorite color of mine. Anytime you need brown leaves, you need a trunk, and just generally, I think it's not the color, it's the way the color mixes that kind of thrills me. It's some of the colors mix well and some of them don't, and those mix beautifully are the ones that I like generally. Those are the ones that I tend to include in my palette, and sepia is one of the colors, and yellow gray is one of the colors. It mixes really well on its own. It's a very dull color, but it mixes very well with other greens and reds. So sepia, and that's about it. So I hope you found this exercise interesting, and I hope you will give this a shot.